Hello everyone, hope you're having a fantastic day so far and welcome back to the channel. My name is Strompfel, I'm your coach for the Mt Silver Mences, and for week number 9 of the PCBL, the Mt Silver Mences are going up against the Sunnyshore Surfers and their coach Cav. Now Cav is a familiar face on the channel. I've only actually batted him once on the channel, but twice overall, and he's a super good player. One of the best that I know. He's so strong in both building and playing that it is scary. It actually happens to be both times that I actually managed to face off against him was in a finals game. It was the GPC Championship and it was the AL Season 2 Championship. Both times I managed to come out on top, but both times there were super close games. It could have gone either way, and I'm very scared to face off against him again, especially since his record is actually a little bit better than ours. We're both sitting at a 6-1 record. No, 7-1 record, this is week 9. 7-1 record with a very high differential, so there is like... It's pretty much guaranteed that both of us will be in playoffs, so there's a high chance that I get to face this man in playoffs again. So, since there is a rematch, I'm going to pull a little bit of a Metro card, and I'm going to call it a Metro card since I did this exact same strategy in week number 6, I think, when I faced off against the Metro. That I don't want to reveal all my best strategies versus Cav when I face off against him in the regular season. It's better off save all my good strategies, all my good sets. My overall game plan versus Cav, it's going to be saved towards the rematch. Just because I want to reveal them then and not now, which means that he can't prepare for them. Which means that you might see some wonky sets, some quote-unquote heat sets. If you wonder why I'm out of breath, I just did some push-ups, so yeah, I am a little bit out of breath, but this should be just fine. Now, Cav, he has a very scary team, as you can see on your right side. He has the Mega Altaria, he has the Protean Greninja. Holy shit, that's hard to prepare for. He has the Infernape, the Toxapex, the Skarmory, Disgusting Core, just gonna say that outright. He has the Tapu Bulu, Silvally, Piloswine, Spiritomb, Mesprit, Cryogonal, and the Armaldos. Overall, a very good team. Mega Altaria, Infernape, Greninja, super good offensive core. Mega Altaria, Skarmory, Toxapex, super good defensive core. So this team is overall super good, but you couldn't expect anything less from Cav. He's very good at drafting, and you can see that this right now. This team is very hard to prepare for, but I actually managed to come up with a team that I am very confident in, and I feel so glad that I get to try this out, because I am so glad on how this team actually turned out. I feel like this is one of the teams that I am most proud of actually creating. It is it's on the margin of being try hard and fun. It's in the exact middle, the perfect middle spot between good and fun. So some of the sets might seem a little bit unconventional, but you know why now. So starting off, we do have a Thunderous there, my boy Rudimental, actually leading the team in kills at this moment with 9, I think. Very strong Pokemon, and it has such a good matchup versus Cav. Electric plus Poison in general has an amazing matchup versus Cav. Electric just spammed all over his team. He does have a Tapu Bulu and Mega Altaria. Both Fairy types gets hit by Sludge Wave. And then we do have the Grassium Sea Grass Knot in order to bop that Piloswine. Actually, don't pick up the Oko unless it's something like max HP. If it is a little bit spit F, it's not going to want it KO, but it's going to do so much damage. So it can't really switch in on a Grass Knot into a Z Grass Knot, which is the plan. Then we do have the Volt Switch as a filler option. You know, I can just Volt Switch out. If I don't feel like I can Oko the Pokemon, I can just switch out and maybe bring in something else. As you can see, we are very heavily invested in special attack with a modest nature. A kind of a lot of speed, but the thing with Cav's team is that he does have a very big speed gap between the speeds of 108, which is the Infernape, all the way down to I think it is Silvally at 95, but I don't expect Silvally or the Mesprit or the Cryogonal to come. So we do have the Infernape at base 108, all the way down to something like Tapu Bulu or Mega Altaria at base 80s. So giant speed gap, which I take advantage of with this Thunderous form. So next up we do have a Choice Scarf Tapu Fini. Now Choice Scarf Tapu Fini is quite interesting. It's of course not the set that I originally thought of. It is actually a kind of a filler option. I don't want to call it a filler option, but it's something that I wanted to play it kind of a way that he will play a certain way in our rematch, if that makes sense. I want to make him feel like there is a potential that I can bring back Scarf Tapu Fini, which there is, totally is. Scarf Tapu Fini actually has quite some like important roles on this team. It can revenge kill stuff like Mega Altaria after Dragon Dance. It can trick away his Choice Scarf, completely crippling the incoming Toxapex, which is most likely the switch in. It also have a very niche role in as a lead in this case, because I've seen Cav tending to lead off with his Greninja turn 1, because if you put Greninja in a position where it can just click moves, it's going to be so hard to play against. It will just pick up kills of the kills of the kills. But if I lead off with Choice Scarf Tapu Fini, he might actually be lured into a false sense of security that I would switch out, be scared of something like the Gong Shot, and I will just bop that shit right off the bat with a Moonblast, which is kind of the plan. Now, I do also have the defog, even though I don't feel like I will press the defog that much. I would still like to have the option. As you can see, I do have the Volcarona on my team. I can always like trick away, give my Choice Scarf to something like the Toxapex, and then I can just defog pretty freely versus this entire team. Now there is the potential that I will obtain the Black Sludge from the Toxapex, but you know, it is what it is. Having a Choice Scarfed Toxapex is always nice, and losing some health on Tapu Fini every turn is not the worst case. And it's not the end of the world for me. I will not lose because of it. I might actually lose because of some other reasons. Who knows? But next up we do have the Volcarona rocking the Metronome this week. Now, Cav, as I said, is a very good player. I think that if I go into my Volcarona, Quividence up as he switches out to something like the Skarmory or the Tapu Bulu into the Toxapex, he will most likely scout for a Psychium C. Everyone and their mother uses Psychium C Volcarona when they see a Toxapex on the matchup, so I do think that Cav will actually scout for this, which is why I do have the Metronome instead, because one or two things can happen. One, he goes into the Toxapex, scout for the Psychium C, switches into something like the Skarmory. I can just start Metronome attacking with my Psychic, because what I can see happening is he switches out Toxapex into the Skarmory as I go for the Psychic, then he will most likely switch back into the Toxapex on the predicted Flamethrower. I'll just keep on Psychic in that case, because if I keep on Psychicing, Metronome will boost my power, and sooner or later that Toxapex will be dead. Now, scenario number 2, I Quividence up. Toxapex comes in, and if he tries to haze me, get rid of my +1, I'll just keep on Psychicing and he will be forced to recover, and Metronome will actually boost my damage gradually, which means that I can potentially get a Spadaf drop, or just when I'm at 5 hits, it's going to do way too much damage, even to a max special defense Toxapex, and that shit will die. We do have the Quividence, Roost, and the Flamethrower. Flamethrower is of course very good in general for this team. I do need to weaken Piloswine a little bit before I can actually sweep with this Volcarona, but it's more tend to be a wall breaker. You'll actually see what kind of sweeper I do have in the end. Next up we get on ourselves a very key component to our strategy, which is the, I'm sorry you can see my background when I try to switch the layout, but we do have a Amoonguss right here. Amoonguss is rocking the Payapa Berry. It is very crucial for the team, because this just stops Tapu Bulu and Mega Altaria straight away. Payapa is of course for that Zen Headbutt on the Tapu Bulu. We do have the ability to just clear Smog away any Sword Stances or Dragonesses or Calling Guards on Mega Altaria. We do have the Giga Drain as our main offensive move. HP Fire is of course for the Skarmory, and Spore is just to put something asleep, which can be very crucial in case we face off against something annoying. Stuff like a I don't know, Silvally, might want to put that to bed or something like that. Just have something asleep will actually give me a lot of leeway to do something else. Maybe with this Reuniclus set. Reuniclus is rocking the Life Orb set this time, which is quite cool. I usually tend to not run like boosting items on Reuniclus. I like to run the defensive items, but I felt like Life Orb actually had its viability in this matchup. I'm rocking a very defensive Reuniclus with offensive moves and like offensive presence, which is why Life Orb is so cool. Almost max on the defense in order to take something like Dragon Dance boosted Altaria. I can take U-turns from Greninja. U-turns from Inferno. I pretty much just check Inferno straight up if it is Choice Scarf, which I'm expecting it to be. That way I can just switch on a Toxapex Skarmory every day to Sunday. Tapu Bulu I check pretty nicely. I can switch in on Piloswine as well. And Life Orb boosted Psychic will do so much damage to his entire team. And I can Thunder the Skarmory, or I can Thunder something like a Silvally Dark. I can Thunder the Mesprit and potentially get the Paralyzed paralyzation, which will be very, very crucial. Thunder is also there to hit a potential Greninja, which wants to Dark Pulse me. I can actually take one hit, even from a Life Orb Greninja, and then go for a Life Orb boosted Thunder, which will KO that Greninja after a round of Stealth Dogs. Even though I don't have Stealth Dogs, I always like to take that into account. If it takes something like a little bit of chip damage, Thunder will be just a nuke versus him. And then Thunder Wave is there just because I want to slow shit down. If I'm able to slow shit down, then maybe even my Thunders can do some late game cleaning. I can do something with like a Choice Scarf Tapu Fini if in case I actually manage to paralyze the Choice Scarf Ninja or something like that. Paralyzation in general is just a bullshit strategy, and might actually want to whip that out versus Cav because Cav is such a good player. This is a little bit sketchy, but you get my point. Last but not least, we do have this Kurum Black set, and this Kurum Black set is quite neat in my opinion. I was very, very happy when I thought of this set, let's call it that, because I thought, I just sat there thinking that, okay, if I don't want to bring like the original Kyurem set that I thought of, the quote-unquote better Kyurem set in this matchup, I want to bring something a little bit more funky, and this is the Kyurem set that I come up with. So we do have the Substitute Slackberry with a Hone Claws Blizzard and the Fusion Bolt. As you can see, we do have a shit ton of EVs in every single stats. The 4 EVs in Special Defense doesn't even do anything, just want to mention that straight away. I just showed this set to Bill, and he thought it would be funny just to throw 4 in Special Defense in order to make this set even more triad than it actually is. So we do have the Salackberry sub Hone Claw. So the set is meant to switch in on Kyurem or Skarmory, Toxapex or Skarmory, get up Substitute, and maybe even get up a Hone Claws. If I'm able to maybe paralyze the Scarf Infirm, this set just pretty much wins. I do have the Fusion Bolt, coupled with the Hone Claws boost. I'll actually be able to break through Toxapex, even though it will recover stall me. And of course, Hone Claws will actually boost my accuracy as well, which means that I can land 100% accurate Blizzards, which will do so much damage to pretty much everything on his entire team, which is so much fun. I love just clicking Blizzard versus opponents. It's so much fun to just see their reactions, and now I can even land them, which is the main idea of this set. As I said, if I'm able to paralyze the Infirm, this set can just go in and just pretty much win at that point. But I need some preparation, and I need to chip some Pokemon down, especially that Piloswine, which I do think that my team kind of does. Grassy Z, I can trick it or I can Scald it. I can pretty much Flamethrower it and just force it to... And it doesn't have recovery, so I can just chip it down there. Giga Drain does a little bit of damage. This does a shit ton with a Life Orb Psychic, and this can't really touch it, but I can Blizzard it and hope for the best. So that's actually going to be the team for this week. I'm actually kind of proud of this team because I feel like it is quite funny, and I do feel I can catch Cav off guard with a bunch of these sets. So let's see actually how these sets worked out in action, and let's go right into the battle. Alright, it is battle time versus Cav, and he has opted to bring the Greninja, Skarmory, Infernape, Piloswine, Toxapex, and the Altaria. So all around, no real surprises here. Piloswine will be so annoying, even though it is a tier 5 bring. I need to chip that down straight away. He has opted not to bring the Tapu Bulu, which in my opinion is totally valid, since Tapu Bulu needs to carry coverage for my Volcarona, Amoonguss, potentially Cobalion, potentially Thundurus. All of those pretty much require superpowers in Headbutt and Stone Edge, which means that he only can carry one of coverage moves, and if you want to run something like Setup, you don't have a Grass Stab. If you run something like a Grass Stab, you don't have Setup, and you won't do as much damage. So I can see why he has opted to leave that behind. He has of course opted to bring the Greninja. It is a giant threat, especially since if you didn't know already, and if you didn't watch the team builder, this Greninja is actually Protean, which means that it's a huge threat against my entire team, and I need to deal with it ASAP. Potentially Scarf Infernape. He has a very fat core of the Toxapex and the Skarmory, and Mega Altaria can be whatever it wants to. I just have to play a little bit carefully around it. But if you opted to skip the team build, I'll just quickly round down my team. I have a Grossium C Thunders with the Sludge Whip and the Thunderbolt as my main 2 coverage moves, since that pretty much destroys his entire team. I can click Thunderbolt versus everything that is in Mega Altaria, hence Sludge Wave, and the Piloswine, hence the Grossium C. Now we do have a Scarfed Tapu Fini, which has pretty much 3 purposes. I can lure in the Greninja, kind of bluff that I am not willing to stay in on a Gong Shot, and I can Moonblast and pick up the 1-hit KO on that shit. I can Revenge Kill a Mega Altaria after Dragon Dance, and I can trick away my Choice Scarf, which is one of the main things that I'm thinking I will do in this battle in order to completely cripple the Toxapex, which will be absolutely fantastic. Now we do have a, what was this? It was a Metronome, Quiver-Dance, Volcarona. It was a while back when I battled this. Metronome, Quiver-Dance, Volcarona in order to come in and beat the Toxapex 1v1 without having the Psyche MC, because I do think Cav will actually scout for the Psyche MC, so I don't want to blow away my Z-Crystal just like that. We do have like a mixed defensive Amoonguss to check the Altari and just all around put something to bed. We do have a Life Orb Magikarp, a Reuniclus, which pretty much can check his entire team barring the Greninja, and I can fire off very, very hard hits. And then we do have the main set of the game, which is actually my Sub-Salac Honeclaws Kyurem with a Blizzard and the Fusion Bolt. Honeclaws, of course, boosting the Fusion Bolt's damage and the Blizzard's accuracy, so that will be a lot of fun to actually try out. So that will be the team. Looking at this, I have seen a tendency from Cam that he wants to lead off with a Greninja, putting Greninja in a situation where he can just click moves right from the get-go and just pick up KOs or shoot KOs is what he really likes to do. So with that in mind, I actually want to lead off with my Tapu Fini, and that actually works out totally fine, because I lead off straight away in the situation that I really want to. I want to give him some sort of... by the way, I don't know what's up with my avatar. I usually have Ethan, but I don't know who this girl is. She just sneaked in, and I guess I forgot to change it. But right away, I have the matchup that I want to. I want to hopefully one-hit KO this Greninja right now. That is the plan. Now, Scarf Tapu Fini is not a thing that you usually scout for, so hopefully I will catch him off guard turn 1. Hopefully he thinks that this will be the easiest gong shot or U-turn of his life, so I can just revenge kill this right now. And what do you know, he actually stays in, and I managed to OK the Greninja turn 1. So right off the bat, the biggest threat to my entire team is gone, which is such a relief, you wouldn't even know. Oh my god, I was so happy. I actually went out and hugged my sister when this happened. So, yeah, this was just the best start to a game that I've ever had, pretty much. So, yeah, Proto-Greninja goes down turn 1, and then he goes straight into the Skarmory, because, of course, I am locked into my Moonblast. So with that in mind, I'm actually going to go right into my Thunders, because, you know, I can scare out this thing potentially and just keep up offensive momentum. He's going to put up rocks, that's totally fine, as I just fire off a Grass Knot, because I thought that the Pyro's one would actually come in, since it is most likely special defensive, and a Grass Knot into another Sea Grass Knot would actually take it out. Unfortunately, that bluff fails, as he just goes straight up for the Whirlwind, faces me out into my Kyurem Black, which is quite annoying, but you know, it is what it is. Kyurem Black takes a little bit of damage, so that's totally fine. I'm just going to go into my Tapu Fini, as he actually just pulls a switch out into the Piloswine, so that pretty much confirms to me that this is a Spidef Piloswine, able to just deal with my special Kyurem Black. Even though I am terrible, to can break through the thick fat, I can't really do that much damage, which is quite annoying. So, however, I just go into my Tapu Fini, because that covers either him going into Toxapex, I can trick, he goes into the Piloswine as he does, or he just wants to stay in and potentially go for something like an Iron Head, which means that I can go for the Scarf Defog, or in this case I can actually go for the Trick, because this is one of the most obvious Toxapex switch-ins of my life, so I can just trick away my Choice Scarf. Unfortunately, I obtained the Black Sludge, but that's totally fine, because Tapu Fini has pretty much served its purpose at this point. I can just go for the Defog, get away the hazards, cripple the Toxapex, and one-hit KO the Greninja. That's more than a Tapu Fini usually does in a battle, so that is totally fine. Of course, he managed to get the Toxic, because the Misty Terrain is over. But now I can just pull a switch out into my Thunders. I'm expecting that the Skarmory will come back in, which it actually does, and this time I'll actually go for the Volt Switch. However, now he reads me perfectly fine, as he switches right into the Piloswine, and this puts me in a quite interesting position, because if you remember, I've actually only... I've Grass Knotted the Skarmory and I switched out, and then I Volt Switched it on the Piloswine, and I haven't actually switched up moves yet, so there's a big chance that this actually is a Scarfed Thunders on my end, and Scarfed Thunders has a great matchup in my opinion, so there's a good chance that I'm Scarfed. I am not, of course, so he might think that I am actually choice locked, and even though that I'm not, Grass Knot will not 2-hit KO. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to stay in and go for right for my Z move. If it's in specially defensive, this will kill. If it's specially defensive, this will do a lot of damage. And if I'm Scarf, then I will switch out. So he will most likely try to protect my switch out right now, try and get back into the game, which I'm capitalizing on right now. I'm just going to go for the Bloom Doom, doing a huge amount of damage to this Piloswine as he actually tries to protect my Tapu Fini or my Volcarona to come in going for the Earthquake. It works out totally fine. I sure won't do too much, and I can just go for another Grass Knot, take out the Piloswine. So now I can potentially Volt Switch freely on his entire team, which is fantastic. So he goes into his Mega Altaria right now, realizing that if he doesn't Mega Evolve right now, then I'll just be able to click my electric moves all over his team and pretty much pick up a KO every time Thunders comes in, which is very, very shitty for him. So he needs to get that Mega Evolution right now. However, this is actually a perfect opportunity for me to put a lot of damage onto this Mega Altaria and pretty much removing it from the game at this point, which is fantastic, because if Mega Altaria goes down, then Reuniclus will pretty much win. We have a potential Scarfing Furnip as the only way off his offense core right now. We have a very crippled, as I can say, very crippled defensive core in his Scarfed, Toxapex, and a Skarmory, which can't really do that much to the Reuniclus. So all I really need to do right now is actually to just put a lot of damage into this Mega Altaria, potentially putting it in range from some other members of my team, and then win with my Reuniclus. That's going to be the main game plan. So I just take this as an opportunity just to go for the Sludge Wave, potentially cripple this if it is a Dragon Dance. If it isn't a Dragon Dance, as it turns out to be special, that's totally fine. Thunders did his job. It pretty much wall break the entire team. So now we can go into my Volcarona, because Volcarona does mainly two things. This is one of the best chances that I have to actually set up Quiver Dances, because if it doesn't have coverage for me, let's say he has something like Toxic, I can Quiver Dance up twice and win the game right now. If he has coverage for me, then he needs to stay in, and if he needs to stay in, then I'll be able to KO this this Altaria right now. He can't really switch out at this point, which is nice for Volcarona. So if he needs to stay in, then Volcarona will KO this, and then Reuniclus can win, which is what I'm going for. So I'm just going to Quiver Dance up. He actually turns out to have Hidden Power Rock, so great prep on Cav's part, preventing me from doing any more setup than I'm already doing right now. I'm just going to Psychic take out this this Mega Altaria, and that puts Reuniclus in pretty much a winning position. So he's going to go into his Infernape, pretty much confirming to me that this is in fact a Choice Scarf Infernape, which I thought it was earlier. He's going to click the Flare Blades. Unfortunately, my Tapu Fini can't take 2 hits at this point, even though it looks like I'm not too KO'd. With the Black Sludge and the Poison, I'm definitely in range, which means that I just let my Tapu Fini go down. There was no real point of me actually saving it, but this actually gives me an opportunity to go into my Kyurem Black, because if I want to do anything with this Kyurem Black, of course, this is like the funkiest set I brought this week, so I actually want to try and see if I can do something with it. And this is my best opportunity, because as I said before, Infernape is its only way of offense at this point, and if it is Choice Scarf, then it needs to switch out right now, which of course it is. There's no way you switch into Volcarona otherwise if you're not Choice Scarfed. You're not that insane, Cav. I don't think you're that good at bluffing. So if this is your only way of offense, and you have a very, very passive and crippled core in the back, you need to switch out this Infernape all day to Sunday, which means that I can get a free substitute up, which is what he ends up doing. So I just get the free substitute up on this Choice Scarf, what's it called? Toxapex, which means that I can also get a Hornclaws up, because there's no way you break my sub, and I can Fusion Bolt for a shit ton of damage on this Skarmory, putting it in range of pretty much my entire team. He of course has revealed the Whirlwind, so I won't be able to sweep with this Kyurem, but just doing a lot of damage is all I really needed. So Reuniclus comes in, and this is just my best opportunity. Actually, I managed to switch out right there. So my thought process there was that Volcarona can be crucial later on, and the only real way I will be able to get Volcarona back to a reasonable amount of health is if I actually go for the Roost right now, because Skarmory is forced to Roost. That's just a given. Or it could go for something like Suicide Stealth, and I want to get Volcarona in before that. So if I want to use Volcarona, I need to Roost right now, which I actually end up going into, because if I Roost up to 90%, I can actually take a Scarfed Flabits without a problem from the Infernape. And actually, I could have went for the Thunder right there, but since the potential of him roosting was pretty big, in my opinion, there was no real point of me revealing the Thunder right now. I can just do it later on when it is a little bit more surprising, I'd say. So I'm just going to go into Volcarona. I thought it was my best play, and I can just go for the Roost, putting this Pokemon into a very, very good amount of health, which means that I can use it later on as well. I can actually switch in on Stealth Dogs in case they go up. I'm just going to go into my Reuniclus, because this Toxapex is completely walled, as it pulls a nice switch out into the Infernape, which is totally fine. I can just go for the Recover every time Infernape comes in, because there's no way you can actually 2-hit KO me. I apparently go for the Thunder Wave, because, you know, I can just win with Kurim if I do. But, you know, Skarmory is actually slower than me, so I can just go for something like the recover turn after, and now I can whip out my Thunder and send this Skarmory packing, because now I'm actually faster, and I can just surprise KO that Skarmory without a doubt. In comes Infertip again, that is totally fine. There's no way you can 2-hit KO me, as I said, so I can just go for the recover every time he comes in case he wants to U-turn, because the only way I can pretty much lose to this Infertip is if he U-turns on me, I KO the Toxapex on the switch in, and then it comes back and he gets a crit with the Flare Blade. So I want to prevent that every day to Sunday by just recovering every time he comes in. And by doing that, Reuniclus will pretty much clean up this game, just going for the Psychic. Apparently Toxapex can take a life from Psychic, which is bullshit in my opinion, but you know what you're gonna do. Toxapex is fat. We all know that if you've ever played an OU game, you will know that Toxapex never dies, which is like Exhibit A right here. So he goes into the last Pokemon, which is the Infertip. As you can see, the Flare Blade does jiddly jack to my Reuniclus, and I can just take this out with the Psychic. So that's going to be a 4-0 victory for the Mt Silver Mences, which is absolutely astounding. I am so glad that the team worked out as I planned it to. Pretty much every single set. That I brought did something this battle, and the one set that didn't do anything is actually something that I might want to save to the rematch, which is fantastic in my opinion. So everything just worked out as planned. GG Cav, this was pretty much the most fun I've had playing Pokemon in 2018. I absolutely love this battle. You're of course a very good player, so it's nice to see some of these sets actually working out against like such a confident player as you are. I really hope we get to face off against each other in playoffs, which will be a great battle for sure. So I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, with this win, I do think the Mt Silver Mences has clinched playoffs. We're sitting at an 8-1 record. So yeah, that will be just fantastic. We get to move on to playoffs. We can do some funky shit there too, and the PCBL will continue even after week 12. So that will be a lot of fun. Next week we get to face off against a divisional rival in the one guy, I think. Not 200% sure if it is next week or the week after, but I know that we get to face off against a divisional rival the week after that. But yeah, I do think it doesn't really matter. 8-1 should guarantee us playoffs, so that is a lot of fun. But with that all being said, I want to thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next week for week number 10 of the PCBL. So yeah, goodbye.